visual. I see it all.
All right, guys. So let's get started. So this is Visual. I am the host. This is an IC Web3 Twitter space. I'm here today with Hype Cartel. I got Nadim with me, and we're excited to hear about Hype Cartel. Nadim, what's up, man? How are you feeling right now, bro?
Feeling great. Super honored to be here amongst good company and with some of the folks from my squad who have been working since very early this morning. So thank you to the squad, and excited to be here with you. Met you and some of your squad over the last couple of weeks and have been very, very impressed by your art meets Web3 meets social impact agenda.
Yeah, definitely, man. I appreciate that. And as it fills in, if you got anybody from your team that pops in that wants to come up and speak, please let me know, because obviously I don't know who everybody is. So if anybody comes in or if anybody's here now, let me know so I could bring them up and
Sure.
they could join in the conversation about Hype Cartel.
Lou.
And also, like I mentioned, to everybody listening in, please, if you want to come up and speak, you're more than welcome to. But I do want to just get some conversation going with Hype Cartel, and then you're more than welcome to join the conversation and ask any questions. But I do ask anybody that comes in to speak to keep it related to the project and to Hype Cartel, so we could just keep the conversation around the project.
So appreciate that. Lou, Val, and Teddy Bear Killer are all from my team. Lou does like to get up and speak. Val has also been getting up more often. Mariana, Teddy Bear Killer could always use the practice and would love to get up here and represent as well.
Bringing them all up. So I just sent invites to speak to all of you. So please accept if you guys want to come up and speak about Hype Cartel. And while you guys go ahead and get that, like I said, I sent out those invites. Let's get this thing started. So just so you guys know, so Nadim and I, we've been on a couple calls recently, just going over the project. He's spoken to my partner Pete as well. For anybody that is not familiar with Pete, he goes by Pete the ETH here on Twitter. And Bullish here, that's my co-host. We're part of a team called IC Web3. What we're doing pretty much, we've been building community, doing a lot of workshops in Chicago and different events that we've been to at South by Southwest. We're also planning something for NFT NYC and just doing a lot of things in the community. We pretty much started as collectors, and we're kind of building momentum to some things that have brought us, we're new to Web3, but not new to, events, promotions, and just, art and building community and education and things of that nature. So, Web3 naturally just brought us to where we are now. So we're building with a lot of dope people, developers, artists, founders, and people like Nadim and his team. And like I said, Nadim and I been on a couple calls recently, and I'm excited about the project. So Nadim, I just want you to give us a real simple rundown of what Hype Cartel is about, and then we'll start digging deep. So just give me like a quick 2-minute, just a synopsis of what the project is about.
Sure. Well, Hype Cartel is kind of coming into Web3 and NFT seeing so much potential. A lot of us are musicians or artists, social impact or community organizing, or tech people. I've spent my last 5 years in many of those things, but especially in Web3 and in tech. And what we see is a lot of potential for groups of people to come together. Unfortunately, we also see a lot of groups that disband or pump and dump or fall victim to volatile, community energy. And what we're doing here is we're really curating as a community the 5,000 holders that will come together and represent a greater opportunity for social impact together, for kind of a launch pad dynamic where we choose things to activate together, and for the expenditure of our mint funds together. And the way we do that is very interesting. We've got an app that we've been building for over a year. We got some venture funding to build this app. And in the app, only holders can get access. And that's really where we will come together to evaluate which stakeholders show leadership, how we can market the NFT, but also market other projects and partners that we see have value, and come together to spend some of the mint funds on community betterment for the holders and social impact, whether that's charity or whether that is engaging in initiatives that use our time and attention to create social good. 5,000 people, my experience as a former elected official is that 5 people can change the world. Can you imagine what's going to happen when we have 5,000 people in this app experience, networking, and trying to make a change? I think there's a lot we can do for Web3 and for NFT from a cultural perspective to guide things in a healthier and more ethical direction. And I think there's a lot we can do from a financial well-being and social impact perspective.
I love that. I love that. And Nadim, and you know what? I think something that I think when you say, you know, making changes and making social impact, I think those are big statements, and I love that. You know, when we talked on the phone, I told you there was a lot of things that you got going on and things that you've done that I resonate with, that I align with. So I'm really excited about that aspect. And I really want to ask you, man, like, how do you really see that, you know, coming into fruition? Like, how do you see that social impact? How is Hype Cartel really focusing in on making that social impact?
That's a great question. I mean, there's all kinds of social impact, right? There's the tangible social impact that you see in the community when a nonprofit or a community group gets together in person, and you can, you know, every Earth Day here, a group of us go down to the Charles River. We clean up the Charles River, and you can see the difference after Earth Day because the trash that washes up on the shore is gone for like a good 2 weeks, right? And that's a certain type of social impact. Well, what's the digital version of that? What happens when 5,000 people go to the shores of the digital Charles River and clean up the trash? Like, what does that look like digitally? So when you can align people, you can, you know, 5,000 people isn't just a handful of people in the Charles River. 5,000 people could potentially create a social movement. So you have everything from the tangible, you know, every one of us should do a little more community service this week. Check in and evaluate, right? This app is about evaluating who actually did what they said they were going to do. So check in and evaluate that you did tangible community service. That's an interesting one. That's a low-level one. It's a simple one. It's something you don't need an app for. But you could also check in and say, who engaged in spaces, who engaged in tweets, who engaged in Discord, who engaged in what the industry calls shilling, about being a responsible buyer and seller, about responsibly selling so as not to cause panic selling. How have you impacted your friends and your friend group and the people around you so that we are a self-regulating industry, so that there's no one holding the bag, right? So that people looking from the outside don't say, well, it's just a pyramid scheme or it's just a Ponzi scheme and whoever's left holding the bag is going to lose. You can imagine a form of social impact here where actually our industry becomes a paragon, not a paragon just of bleeding edge tech and Wild West opportunity, but actually of financial safety and of kind of well-being and a culture of mutual aid and mutual protection. So I think maybe that's enough for one answer, but we can talk in future questions and answers throughout this interview about how exactly you would achieve something like that within an app context. How would you align 5,000 people to go spread that gospel?
No, and I love that. I love that, man. I honestly don't feel like answers are ever too long-winded. So that's great. Especially, especially with a question like that, you know, I feel like that's important. You know, I think if you're talking about social impact, it's important for people to understand, like, you know, what that is to you and how you expect to make that social impact. Because, like you said, something small like going to clean up, you know, some garbage in a specific area or something might not be that big to many, but then on the flip side, it is big to many, and it might be something small to some, but big to others. And I think that's something, and I think it's something that a lot of us probably aren't doing, you know?
Yeah.
And then if you're talking on the digital aspect, I mean, I think the possibilities are endless on that aspect. So I love that.
It's really, just to follow up on what you were saying, there's two aspects that I do like to talk about, and we hit both of them with that back and forth there. The first is, I actually think in this time in life, it's really easy to give a little money or a little bit of your gains to charity and think that you've done the work. But I actually think that for myself, one of my goals, just for me, not necessarily for the community, is to do more charity with my hands. You know, I always think to myself, well, it'd be better if I gave dollars to this, because when I'm at the soup kitchen, it's only worth, whatever, $5, right? The time I put in. But actually, that means also that if we keep saying that, we get away from the practice of being compassionate, being present, and being charitable in person with our actual physical hands. So a digital environment can encourage us to do more with our hands if that becomes one of the attitudes or one of the commitments of the group. And that's not up to me. That's going to be up to the Hype Cartel membership. But the other side of it is that there's really no digital format I can think of right now to go do the bigger things, the abstract things, the movement building things, right? Like how would you actually get today, with today's technology, put Hype Cartel to the side for a second. But one of the questions we've asked ourselves for a long time is how would you actually get a movement built to do something big that affects the culture of Web3 or the promise of Web3 or the opportunity of Web3? It's so hard to get people to focus and pay attention. And while you've got the attention of one whale or one person or one Twitter space, you got that person's attention, you've lost the attention of whoever you had going over here. And so to actually have a group that's all looking at the same thing with the same values at the same time, and then is going out and propagating that, that's a very special thing. I would have thought that something like that would have existed via Web 2 technology 10 or 15 years ago. But the reality is that things have gotten less and less focused and less aligned around movement building via technology rather than more aligned. And we've seen over the last several elections, not just in the United States, but in Belarus and all over the world. And of course, Russia has its own internal oligarchy. We've seen how a government can use the lack of focus in technology, or even a technology founder can use the lack of focus in our technology to program us, rather than us being able to use technology to program the culture that we're in.
Yes. Great points, Nadim. Great points, man. I love that. I want to dig into the project, but before we dig into the project, I want people to kind of understand why you are where you are right now with this project, and why you're talking about social impact and things like that. So why don't you tell everybody a little bit about your backstory, and just dig into your life journey a little bit, and to what got you into Web3.
Would love to. I have had a life of adventure. Been very blessed to have an unusual trajectory. After MIT, I was supposed to be a nerd, and instead of doing nerdy things, I did arts things. So I was obsessed with the arts. I had paid for a lot of my tuition in grad school with little animations that, in the time of Flash, I was able to charge an unusual amount for, and make little games for companies and stuff like that. And sold Puma sneakers out of my dorm room to make rent, essentially, and which was not legal and not appreciated by the house manager, by the way. Instead of going into tech, I directed a viral music video for Grammy Award-winning band OK Go. I kind of just cold emailed them. I said, "Here's a concept. Every frame of the video is a piece of toast, and we're going to make the world's first stop motion toast animation." And for those of you who are elder millennials like me or older, you'll remember that there was a craze about Jesus appearing on a piece of toast, and so we were inspired to make our own laser engraved toast, and every frame was a cool little piece of art. After that, I started this design agency called Nimblebot.com, NIMBLEBOT. You can find it at Nimblebot on Twitter, or Nimblebot.com on the web, and then kind of got embedded here in this Cambridge community. Ended up starting something called Danger Awesome, which is a laser printing and 3D laser cutting and 3D printing studio that was here for about 5 or 6 years, on the cusp of one of the most privileged parts of town, on the border with that part of town, and one of the most underserved parts of town. And we had a walk-in model. People could learn, people could cut, people could do an industrial design. And on the platform of this design agency, this kind of community organizing and this educational ethos, I ran for public office. I thought people my age weren't really getting involved in the civic process, and the more I learned about it, the more I felt that it was corrupt and opaque. So I ran for and won a seat on city council here in Cambridge. And my feeling was that this is the home of MIT and Harvard, but it's also the home of some of the biggest socioeconomic inequity and educational inequity in the nation, or maybe in the world. So I won by 6 votes. I won my first election by 6 votes, and it really taught me about community organizing in the trenches. We ran to lose, essentially. We organized in communities where, I'm a Democrat and a progressive, and even the Democratic Party said if you want to win, you organize with white upper middle class voters. That's your voter, quote unquote, your voter universe. And so leave all the other voters behind, because only when you win can you make a difference. We said, well, if we win like that, then we've lost, right? Because that's not real representation. So we organized in all kinds of communities. We organized for the long term. We said this might take longer, but people want to vote. It's just that a lot of people have been left behind in immigrant communities and the Black community in Cambridge, and many other like working class and underserved communities. So won by 6 votes. There was a recount and everything. I won my second election by the most votes out of anyone running. We really started a movement. We got this idea that anything was possible. And even though I was a minority on council, and only 2 of us out of 9 really had this idea that we needed to shake things up, we kept winning votes because so many people came out to support us that the majority thought they would be unelected if they didn't agree with some of our positions. We ended up getting $50 million out of an elite co-working space that the city was going to fund, and we sent that into a program run by MIT for tech training. We ended up overseeing, over those 4 years, $2 billion in public funds. And I can say that our aim was always to change the game for underserved communities, and we made a big dent in putting money to work for communities in a way it never would have been before. And asking questions, frankly, that just got shoved under the rug, because politics is easy if everyone can agree just to make everything confusing, which we were not on board to do. I had a self-imposed term limit, so I got out when I said I would. I said I would do 2 terms of this, even though it's something that can make you rich and it's something that can make you powerful. I said we don't want that, and I kind of handed my office and my votes and my momentum to other folks to hope that they would win, and indeed some of them did win, and now there's even more than 2 out of 9. There's, I think, 4 out of 9 from my background or my ethos, and they are my spiritual successors in this work, and hopefully one day we get a majority on council. After that, I spent about 5 years in Web3. My view was that this same community building energy was happening in Web3, but that Web3 didn't know it, and that Web3 had thousands and millions of people running around chasing the money, chasing the paper, chasing the promise of liberty and independence and opportunity, but getting a little too stuck maybe on the money part, on the financial part. And then, I did get a front row seat for a lot of crypto winter in 2017 and 18 when I was in Shanghai and Seoul pretty much full time. I did get a front row seat for, this experience of seeing meme coins and seeing pump and dumps and seeing scams really up close, seeing a lot of people run scams. Us being scammed in Korea, our broker raised us some money when we were at, a couple companies ago, and ran away with not just our money, but a bunch of BitThumb's money. This was the senior leader at BitThumb, one of the most reputable exchanges in Korea, now under deep investigation for embezzling tons of money throughout 2017 and 2018. So I've seen it all. I've seen it up close. I've seen how it happens, and I've seen how people get lost in some of the opportunities and kind of miss maybe the opportunity, the greater opportunity for social impact. So I really have enjoyed bringing this team together to focus more on the community side, to figure out how and to test how technology can allow us to take the initial promise of Web3 and the initial promise of NFT community building and really get to the next level, get to that initial feeling that we had early last year, that we had in parts of 2017, that a lot of folks had in 2014, 15, that something really special is happening here if we can layer something substantive on top of the fintech aspect. And that's a really, really big if, because everywhere you turn, it ends up being about who's got the dollars and who's got the alpha, and that's often the people who have the dollars really commanding a lot of the alpha. And our goal, to sum all of that up, our goal is to make a cartel where some really good-hearted people, artists, entrepreneurs, social impact, committed people, and enthusiasts, just people who want to put in sweat equity, where that cartel will be as powerful or more powerful than the type of whales that would like you to get into something so they can pump and dump. We want to be as or more powerful than the people who aren't paying that much attention to what comes next and are just talking a big game so that they can get in, make a multiple, and get back out. We want to have a seat at the table of being a big voice in this industry. And when I say we, I mean that 5,000 people who want to speak with in unison with some alignment on how to be more, let's say, how to manifest a little bit more planning and a little bit more dependability or reliability in the growth of this space.
Nadim, that's amazing, man. And you know what? I want to touch back around on you and politics, because when we were on the phone a couple weeks ago, I remember you mentioning that slightly. And honestly, like my first thought was like, wow, you know, this guy's involved in politics, and he's no longer involved in politics. And the way you just put it now, that you pretty much left politics knowing what it could give you, but it's just not the direction you wanted to go. I think that's powerful, man. That's very powerful to realize yourself after putting in, not only after putting in that grind and that work, but after realizing, because I mean, we all know politics, you know, what it does for people, right? Good and the bad. And the fact that you stepped away from it knowing that that's not the direction you wanted to go, and you wanted to go in a different direction that was going to make some real social impact and make some real moves, and to be a move maker in a space like Web3. I think that's powerful, man. That's powerful. And things like that are what make me want to be behind the project, man. That's amazing.
I so appreciate that. I mean, it was interesting because when I ran, I was like, okay, look at these people on council. A lot of them have been there for 20, 30 years. You get a pension after 10 years. You get a pension after 10 years. So I was 27. I could be 37 and be earning and have my retirement set. You earn $100,000 and change in Cambridge for being a city councilor every year. So I give a third to city council salary, I give about a third to my rent, and put a third into my other costs, right? And I didn't make a profit. I wasn't banking retirement. But I could have done that. I could have banked more. City councilors usually get, you know, some advanced look on real estate and stuff. I didn't own a house. I still don't own a house, right? In Cambridge, where it's expensive. So there's really ways you can build wealth. You can make connections. You can hook people up. And so I was looking at this, and I knew going in that this is very seductive territory. So we had this self-imposed term limit, and one second. Yeah, come on in. Yeah, sure. Okay, so I had this self-imposed term limit, knowing that this was going to be a little bit of a mind screw, right? Like, you're going to go in. There's no way that these people with all this wealth and this power, from all these diverse backgrounds of city councilors, there's no way that they went in wanting to be opaque and corrupt and confusing, or, you know, for the ones who weren't corrupt, which there's many of them, that there's no way that they went in wanting to be cantankerous and tense and aggressive, right? They probably went in like I went in, right? There's no way that they just started like this. So we kind of knew something was up, and it's worse than I thought, right? Like, I could see myself beginning to get good at it. And I had this commitment to transparency, and I had this commitment to not just, you know, saying something from my chair, which is that, by the way, you're in this old school 200-year-old chamber that is beautiful, and you're in this chair where the back of the chair is 7 feet tall. So you're you look like you're on a throne. You feel like you're in a throne room. It's the whole thing is made to make you feel like this is a chamber of value, and this is a chamber of august power. And there's no way you can be in this situation where you're really like a D-list local celebrity, but they make you feel, the public makes you feel, the chamber, the position, the office makes you feel like you're really something special. And then lobbyists come and kiss your ring and tell you how great it would be if you could pass this, that, and the other thing. It is tailor-made to mess you up emotionally and psychologically. Politics in this country is intrinsically toxic. And I think in most countries, it's intrinsically toxic. And there is no training, there is no support network, there is no psychologist, there is no one who can come in and tell you how to navigate it and remain safe and healthy, including, and maybe even especially, if you come in with a mission for social change, right? You think you're doing the good thing, you're the good one, you're going to do great. And that's what delivers us all these politicians. They get to a place where it doesn't matter The means justify the ends. I'm doing great because I'm a good person. And then, of course, the ego and the power and the opportunity, the human being cannot help but doing the wrong thing. So I think 4 years was exactly the right amount of time. Always kept my nose clean, kept my hands clean. And, I think I could have done it maybe another 10 years and really been clean and good and honest. And I would have always been transparent and fair and legal and all that stuff. I would have never gone the other way. But would I have always remained myself? Would I have always been, I don't think anyone would accuse me of being humble, but would I have always been centered? I don't know that I always would have. And you can feel the changes coming even after 4 years. So just for those of you who don't have insight into any of that, it's a very strange thing. And when we talk about policy or legislation or social impact or how money is spent in this country, all of that is tainted by the fact that humans were not cut out to do this in an internet age. And that if they were cut out to do it, it's going to require a whole village of people overseeing and coaching and helping and restoring justice, not just for our communities, but actually for the politicians themselves. The politicians are also victims. They're victims of this process. And the system itself, you can imagine, like, you go in there thinking that some human in there is evil and bad. And then you realize, like, oh my God, if you even took all the people out, the system itself, just by circulating, just by going through these motions, the system itself is actually creating bad outcomes. There's no person responsible. The way we've set up the system is creating these bad outcomes. And so the reason I go through all of this context and this whole story is that the same thing is happening in Web3. You can say, I don't like the pump and dumps, I don't like the scammers, I don't like this and that. You could take out all the scammers. You could take out all the pump and dump whales. The system itself is not set up to create the social justice that we want to achieve. But we're uniquely positioned to change that.
Nadeem, man. Everybody that's listening, I want you guys to know too, when I spoke to Nadeem a couple weeks ago, and we were on the phone in a Zoom, and I told him too, I was like, you know what, I think when we have this space, I know we're going to focus on the project, but I really think it's important to focus on Nadeem and like what he's done and what he's going to do, because I told him that day when we spoke, man, this is what we're building together. Just the small relationship that me and him have right now off a couple Zoom calls and text messages. It's going to be much bigger than an NFT project, and I don't know if you guys are seeing that obviously here in this space, but I'm very happy to be connecting and building with somebody like Nadeem. I truly believe in the things that he's doing, and I'm a huge supporter of Nadeem himself as a person. So the project that Hype Cartel, man, is like, to me, it's just like icing on the cake. You know what I'm saying? So I'm behind Nadeem, and the more I talk to you, man, the more I feel that. To go off of that too, man, we heard about a lot of your background, man, where it got you to where you are. And everybody too, if you're listening in, please, as you're listening, I want you guys to realize too, you guys can Google Nadeem. I mean, he's got a website, it's Nadeem Tron. I don't know, is that your only website, Nadeem?
I don't even know if my Nadeem Tron website has anything of value on it. We threw that up one time for a grant application, but nimblebot.com is a good website. You can find me on any social at Nadeem Tron, so twitter.com Nadeem Tron, Instagram Nadeem Tron, maybe even YouTube. I don't know. I don't know videos in a long time.
And I was bringing that up just to say, you guys can Google him. I mean, he's doxed. He's completely visible. Yeah. Like, he's on LinkedIn. Like, I mean, you could
Google me. For sure, go to LinkedIn. But if you want to Google me, you can get some very interesting stuff just by Googling my full name, Nadeem Mazen. You can find when Trump was getting big, and remember Breitbart and Steve Bannon. Steve Bannon published a hit piece on me accusing me of being in Hamas. That's how real it was getting. The anti-Muslim sentiment was getting very aggressive.
That's wild. But yeah, I mean, I say that because, you know, one thing that's important to me, and you know, I kind of brought that up yesterday in a space that I was in. I think being doxxed and being the founder of a project, an artist of a project, or anybody who's you know, I don't think the whole team has to always be doxxed, because there's different reasons people don't want to be doxxed. But I feel like if you're the face of a project, the artist of the project, the founder, I really think it's important, because you got to kind of look at, you know, NFT projects like they're a store, they're a business, you know, and I don't want to walk into a store and not know who I'm working with, you know, or not know who I'm supporting, or not know what I'm behind. So that's why I mentioned it. It's very important. And obviously all the things you're talking about, so people could go back and actually see, like, you know, the impact that this is going to make, you know, that I actually believe that this is going to make, because like I said, it's much bigger than NFC project, you know. Granted, the project represents a lot of strong points, and has some big aspirations, but you know, I think everything that Nadeem's doing is much bigger than this project, and that's why I wanted to say that, so everybody's you know, on the same page, that you're out here, man, you're out here.
No,
So
I am, and the team is. You know, I mean, we have Dr. Özcan, who has been with me for several years, and he's a PhD in economics. We've been together for 20 years working on things. So he and I went to undergrad at MIT. He got his PhD at Northwestern. You can look up papers he's published, and you know, he's in Cambridge and Istanbul. You can look at Susan, who runs Nimblebot, and she's doxxed. You can look at most of our team, our community management team. I think 3 out of the 4 people on our community management team are doxxed. And you know, and there's good reasons why, you know, some people don't want to be doxxed, just obviously not on the run from the law, but just have personal and identity and online aspiration reasons to do that. So I don't think we're one of these projects that says, hey, part of Web3 is that you can be anonymous and that's kind of fun. I think I've been burned by other people not being doxxed too many times to think that's fun. I think you're right that the face of a project, or that one of the founders of the project, needs to be doxxed. Naya's doxxed, another founder. She was on The Voice television show as a musician. But I actually think that you need to get 70, 80, 90% of your project doxxed, so that you can never say, oh, I was doxxed, but it was such and such who did the dirty business, and we don't really know who that person is. That all of that kind of backdoor scamming and finger pointing that happens when projects go down the tubes. I want the bulk of a project to be able to point at themselves, at each other, at each individual, and say, when we messed up, it was us, and here's what we're going to do about it, rather than this game of cards that happens when you know, when people fall short. So I think that's important for the community, but I also think it's important for the founders themselves, because then they learn to take responsibility, and that's been the way for entrepreneurship for the last, you know, several decades. I don't think it should stop just because Web3 has a lot of anonymity.
Yes, agreed. Thank you for that, man. I truly appreciate that. Knowing too that a lot of people on the team are you know, doxxed, and we're able to find them, and everybody's involved like that. That's amazing. That's amazing. So Nadeem, you know, man, we're talking a lot about what's going on with you, your past, and kind of what led you here to Web3. And I really want to I want to get into the project a little bit too. And like I mentioned, everybody listening in, I appreciate you guys here. I definitely want to bring you all up. I'm just diving in deep into Nadeem's background, and we're going to get into the project now. If you guys want to come up and speak, please send in those requests. I'm going to bring you guys in actually very soon. And then I want to go back to some more questions that I have for Nadeem. But let's dig a little bit into the project, and then maybe we could have somebody else come up. Lou, I don't know if you have anything to say. James, I know you're in here as a speaker too, and Bullish, my co-host as well. You know, let's get some more conversation going. But I got a question about the project. So me and you talked about the minting process, the whitelisting process, and I thought it was extremely unique how you want to go about that. So let's get into that. Tell me about, you know, what your quote unquote whitelist is, how to get on that whitelist, and how are we able to mint this thing, because I know it ties into how you whitelist everything. So let's get into that, so people can understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think we got a unique perspective here, which is that if you want a community that sticks around after the NFT value is up, after it's down, because there's a social mission, if you want a group that takes care of one another and is, you know, got diamond hands, as they say, wants to hold on for a long time, and really continue supporting one another, remember, remember that the NFT is also a ticket to our app. And so we want people to hold on to at least one of their NFTs for as long as possible. And if you want people to make that ticket valuable, that means they're not just going to sell it to anyone. They're going to sell it to the people that they believe will be good community members. That's a limited and exclusive commodity there, or limited and exclusive art form, I should say. The way we do that is that we have 133 OGs. We're in that period now where the NFT is less expensive, but you have to pay for it in sweat equity. You're going to come in at 0.02 for something that's eventually going to be 0.15 or higher. And the reason that it's lower is because we don't really care about the money right now for those 133. Those 133 are helping us choose each other and helping us think about who the next 5,000 will be. So 133 OGs select a council of 500, so another 367 people. That 500 people sit down and think about the next 4,500. We're talking about a total of 5,000 influencers, artists, founders, NFT enthusiasts, devs, designers, all walks of life. And we've already met, just in 2 or 3 days of doing OG interviews, we've already met people like Jen. We've met people like, we have the Space Boy Chorizo, project founder, on this call. I would love to hear them talk about why they're interested in being OGs, what they've been about in their lives, how a network like this or how its social impact vision speak to them. But we've met these wonderful people. We're already seeing, as we march towards 133 OGs, how this network of complementary geniuses, frankly, is going to fit together and be a place of support and be a place of creative planning, a place of mutual aid, and a place of outward-looking vision and guidance for the Web3 space. And those 133 have their work cut out for them. There's so many questions. There's a token in our future. We want to tokenize reliability online, and there's a whole roadmap for that. But you got to put in work to make a token like that come to life. That's not just a meme token. That's not just a let's ape this thing to the ape in and then pump this thing to the moon. This is not we'd love to have a podcast, but we're not a trend-setting podcast right now that can just pop out some 8-bit art and have it be worth 600 million. Everything we do is going to be based on substance, and so the token has to be substantive and actually has to create real work and real value. The NFT and the app have to work and create real value. That means that these 133 OGs have to be stepping back at every point and asking, are we doing it? Are we changing the game? Have we brought 4,500 people into this community who are willing to take that work on their shoulders and to be achieving that outcome and to be slogging through the 2 years where every company is walking across the bridge while building the bridge while walking across it. And that's a hard time. That takes a special type of entrepreneurial spirit when you're using an app that's breaking while you're using it, let's say, or while you're thinking of new features and they can't be built fast enough to achieve the outcomes you want, or having conflict within a group and suddenly having to realize that both sides are right and you still have to resolve the conflict because now we're supposed to be a family rather than just some dramatic Discord server. So that's the real work. That's the hard work. And right now, the only way to mint our token is to essentially apply with the other OGs. We've got probably about 20, 30 people committed over the last 2 days who are a good fit for each other. And as they begin to meet each other, they are evaluating, vetting, and approving each other. And then so you have to kind of get with them or get on their agenda or apply or tweet at us or DM and kind of get into that mix of people evaluating each other. And if you miss out on the 133, that's a great opportunity to be in the council or in the main 5,000 who will be nominated and evaluated by those OG and council groups. So this is to put it in a sentence, this is a curation project. And we're curating people who have long-term vision, who have grit and determination, who have reliability, and who are willing to stand proud and embrace failure. Their personal failure, when they're not able to market something or when they try their best, but they're still not able to get that celebrity or get whoever they were aiming to get in on the project. And we're going to embrace failure together, and then we're going to turn that into success through personal growth and through a commitment to consistent evaluation and consistent goal setting and consistent execution as a group. I'll finish this by saying that I do encourage folks to DM the Hype Cartel account or any of the folks in here or my Nadimtron account, and we will bring you in for an interview, first with one of the OGs and then with a group of the OGs. And I do encourage people to be nominating if it's not for you, if you're not reliable in your business life yet, if you don't have the time, if you're not interested, but you know someone who is. It's a great opportunity also to do the altruistic thing and nominate someone else who sounds perfect for this, maybe because they have the time, maybe because they have the expertise, or maybe because they have that altruistic or business spirit that is coming out of their gills. So do be in touch, and that's the best way to get in. That's the best way to get in at the 0.02 price. But even if people don't get in at the 0.02 price, we will be curating this group of 5,000 for a few weeks to come, and we'll do it for however long it takes. I think unlike projects that feel like they have to sell out and create FOMO and all of that stuff, we're really trying to take this at the right speed to make sure we do a good job. So there's probably a couple weeks left of OGs, and then at least a couple weeks of nominations for the main 5,000.
That's phenomenal, man. That's phenomenal. So two things. One, I think, like I said, it's phenomenal. It's a whole different approach. It's very heavy. It's heavy. Like, it's definitely not for everybody. It's definitely 100% not for everybody. No. And I think anybody that might have heard what you just said, anybody that hears this after it's recorded and listens in again on what that process is like to mint, like, they're going to be like, yo, wait a minute, this is not for me. But on the flip side, I think that's excellent, though, because like I said earlier, this is big. This is not a small, like, smidgen of a, let's hurry up and make a money grab type project. Like, there's goals and missions behind this, and I think that's what it takes. And I think just to make the minting process like that says a lot. And you're going to have some heavy hitters involved in a project. And speaking of that, 100%, let me know what the move is so that I can be one of those people that mints. Because you know I'm on that.
You got to meet Spaceboy Chorizo. You got to meet Jen. You got to meet this group of 20 or 30 people that we've been interviewing. We're going to have one of those meetups coming up on Friday or Monday. I hope that you're there for the very first one. It's going to be a small one, just first 5 or 10 people. And then we'll do groups of 5 or 10, but then we're going to have either a Spaces, a publicly facing meetup where others can watch us meet each other, or a private Zoom or something. And I think that first big meetup with big, small for Discord, big for Zoom, of 50 people is going to be really interesting, because it's going to be the first moment where oh wow, it's going to happen, right? That first group of 30 or 50, it's like, oh, we could double once and be done with the OGs. Oh, we could double 3 times and be done with the council. Okay, we could double 4 more times and be done with the whole mint. And if every doubling is not just, some ravenous desire to pump the stock, right? It is actually an effective curation. Then not only are we going quickly, not only are we tipping dominoes, but we're tipping some of the most altruistic and competent dominoes in the entire space. I do want to say one thing, though. I focus a lot on what you have to do. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I talk a lot about our altruism and our social impact, but I got to talk a little bit about the upside. There is an upside here. When you join a group of 5,000 people just like you, I don't mean just like you from a background perspective, just like you in terms of their commitment to well-being and commitment to financial growth, well, that has some financial upside, right? When we're spending at least a quarter of our mint directly on cash rewards for the people who show leadership in the app, that's financial upside. When we're picking projects to invest in as a DAO, and then the DAO makes sure that project succeeds, but you also are maybe buying that NFT for yourself, that has financial upside. Right? If you're getting early access to certain things because the whole group is valued as a group of web leaders, that has financial upside. So there's a lot more we can do as a launch pad and as a group of committed individuals. Ideally, there is fair, equitable financial upside and huge value for being a ticketed member, right? An NFT holding member of this group. And so it's not all just sweat equity and we're going to build the future. It's also like, well, once you build the future, you happen to also have a front row seat for that eventuality that you have helped build. So that's, leaders in the group are going to have access to knowledge, information, and opportunities that other folks might not see that early. We got a question from your co-host, Bullish.
Yes. Bullish, what's good? What's on your mind?
So I actually was curious to find out if anybody else also wants to speak on your project. And I saw that you also have a doctor on your team. So how did that all come together?
Yeah, I would love to have any of the community managers. I got to give a shout out to all the folks from my team who are in this group. Lou.
Yeah, I checked out your team on the website.
Yes. Feel free to go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's it. That's all I had to say.
All right. I got to give a shout out to this team that's on here tonight. First of all, they've been working a ton tonight. Second of all, they're not community managers in the traditional respect. We met a lot of chat engagers who keep Discord chat, pumping and talking to each other and looking active. And we met promoters and we met community managers who like saying good morning a lot. Like we've seen 5 years of this, right? We've seen people who run AMAs and all kinds of stuff. Our community managers are also community organizers. They have had over a year of practice working with influencers in white glove outreach and engagement. They have had practice reaching out and curating and understanding who would make a good community member from an altruism and grit perspective. And so that all started because we worked together on an influencer marketing app trying to find authenticity-minded influencers. And that's kind of where the birth of this whole project kind of came out of. We realized that what we were building and what we were doing, the team we were coaching, the community building we were doing, the influencer engagement we were doing could be the future of marketing, and especially was needed in Web3, and that it wasn't just influencers, but actually it was enthusiasts and founders and artists that needed to be in there aligning their values and synchronizing their marketing together. So that's kind of the community building part. I'll also talk about Dr. Oskan and how we met at MIT in a second. But go ahead, Bullish, with your next point.
So when you said influencers and validating them, so when we hear influencers, I'm not saying you, but we know that they can be purchased. So I feel that you've put more thought and effort into handpicking your team as well. This is what I'm hearing from you speaking, and I think that's very important when running a project, because I just did a space on red flags, and I feel that you have a very solid project, and I'm not smelling any smoke. I don't see any fires. I don't see any red flags yet, and I think that is very important because, again, you're asking people to invest in your project. I do like your price point. Your price point is excellent because, again, like utilities is great when you're saying we give back once it's minted out, or even at certain stages in your mint. Although I don't think you're just selling NFT, PFP. You're selling a community, a tribe, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a positive impact, I guess that's the best way I can position it. Team that wants to definitely influence and encourage other people to work towards a cause that you are passionate about.
Well, I appreciate those kind words. I'm glad that we're not giving off smoke or fire. Thank goodness for that. We have put a lot of thought into this. When we were in the influencer space, this was Web 2 influencer space. So I've been in Web 3 for 5 years. I've been living in San Francisco, Seoul, Shanghai, and then in COVID back in Boston where my parents are, and taking care of elderly father and just trying to make sure everyone gets through safe. And so that's good. I'm glad we're out the other side of COVID, knock on wood, for the most part. And so I've seen, a lot of interesting stuff. During COVID, we did take some time to work with Web 2 influencers who, it's not so scandalous in Web 2 that they can be bought, right? Like, companies want to work with them. We were trying to figure out what the deal was there. We were working with micro influencers, right? Folks with 10 to 100,000 followers and some mid-tier, 50 to 250, let's say. And, our thesis, our hypothesis during that period was that influencers get a bad rap. They're not superficial. They're just treated bad. They're asked to work for free. They're asked to work for merch. And so let's set up a situation where they get in community with one another, and let's see what happens. And by and large, it was a great learning experience and a great success, because we found that those assumptions were correct. These were good people. We practiced and trained our community team in interviewing people and learning and seeing who really deserved to be in that community. And we practiced testing the features of our app to understand what worked and what didn't. And often, I think we learned that simplicity, just chat features and collaboration features, were the most meaningful. Obviously, having instant payments set us apart from folks who took 2 or 3 months to pay influencers and stuff like that. So these are the things that we've done in our app. For the most part, we've kind of put the pause on those users. We've tested with micro-influencers. We've shown that you can go viral if you get a group of micro-influencers together and they're promoting the same thing. We promoted a dog shelter. We promoted the National Kidney Foundation. We promoted a sparkling seltzer brand. We're about to start testing a promotion with an athletics brand. And so all of that testing over the last year was to kind of understand how you can do influence right. And I think our takeaway was, you don't have to be an influencer. Don't have to be an influencer. Don't have to be a micro-influencer. We're all kind of nano-influencers, right? We have 100 followers, 500, 1,000, 10,000. You don't have to be a micro-influencer, but we do have to be synchronized, and we do have to have a little bit more, I'll say, reliability than the average micro-influencer. Even at 10,000 followers, people are getting too easily distracted. People are showing up a little too late. People are looking for the next dollar a little too soon. And so as I started to merge my influence life, my community organizing life, my Web3 life, and really go back to my roots, creating this art, right? Using my background. Actually, I made something that could have been considered NFTs when I was in college, right? I was layering art in Adobe Flash. I was doing it generatively, and I was creating all these little collections for games that I was making. And so as I got back to my roots and was able to blend all this stuff together, the learnings we've had allowed us to sit here and say, we got to be curating this, and we've got to be curating folks who have a little bit more dedication to each other and to the ethos that I've described earlier in this spaces than your average micro-influencer, and maybe even than your average Web3 enthusiast. And that's what I mean when I say that we've been working with influencers. I mean that we've been testing our assumptions about organizing, we've been testing our assumptions about collective impact, and we've been testing our assumptions about technology for over a year. And we had to raise venture capital money to do that. So that's a story for another question or another time, but we actually had to raise money from investors just to say, we have to test this if we ever want to be successful. And we had some really altruistic and really visionary investors who came together and said, yes, if you're able to test this, I believe it will be successful. And in some senses, that is what has allowed us to get here to this point where we've had these learnings and where we're able to say, this is how to put something like this together so that we know it's going to work.
That's major, man. That's major. I love what you said about influencers and reliability, because, like you said, you might have 10,000 followers, you might have 10, you might have 1 million, whatever it may be. There's people that just don't show up when they need to, and they start looking at those numbers and they start getting lost in those numbers of followers or whatever it is that they have going on whatever platform that they're using. And that's one thing that I've always told anybody I've ever come across on any level, whether it's been as an educator, whether it's been as an artist, whether it's been as a friend, whether it's been as a business partner, whether it's been as a consultant. I've told them, like, man, don't pay attention to who's paying attention to you, because that's their business. That's their business to pay attention to you if they're paying attention to you. What you need to pay attention to on is your mission, your goals, your aspirations, who you are, your integrity, your reliability. Those are the things that are important because that's how everybody's going to stick to
Yes.
you if they matter. And I think that's a major key, man. So when you said that, that's something that's very, very important that people need to pay attention to because, I might have whatever number of 2,000 followers here and 50,000 followers on Facebook and 3,000 on Instagram and this and that. But none of that matters if I'm not showing up, if I'm not doing my part. If people meet me and they're like, this guy's nothing like what he says or nothing like what he acts like on Twitter or this and that. And he's not really doing this and he's not really doing that. And that's one thing that to me on a personal level has always been extremely important, that whatever I do in my life matches whatever people see me as. Now, I'm a human being, so there might be 10 people that know me in 10 different ways, because I move at so many different types of levels that I bring that to the table. I have different types of relationships with different people. But when it comes down to the key points that you mentioned about reliability and also that I want to add in integrity and showing up, I think those three things right there, they go across the board with anybody that knows me personally or that has interacted with me personally. So I think that's a major, major point, man. I love that, Nadim. I think that's very important.
I can feel it. And shout out to Pete the East, who's in the audience.
Pete's in the
as
building.
Well.
I got some more people here, man. Will, I see you. Appreciate you popping in. Elusivity, everybody else that's here, that's, whether you're a friend of mine, friend of Nadim's, or just listening in, we appreciate you guys. And like I said, if anybody else wants to come in and speak, I see the homie Dan Rose too. Anybody wants to come in and speak, has any questions, any comments, anything they want to add into the conversation, or if you want to ask a question about Hype Cartel, if you want to ask a question to Nadim about what he's got going on outside of Hype Cartel, because I know there's lots of layers to what you got going on, Nadim, so somebody else might have caught something and they want to ask you about that, I got questions I want to ask you, man. Like I said, our conversations are going to be way beyond this stuff, man, so we're going to get to it. But I see a couple requests coming in. I'm going to bring Pete up. Go ahead, keep going.
Yeah, let me see if I can track back on something you just said, which I really spoke to me, and then Lou has his hand up.
Yes, let's hear it from Lou. Go ahead.
So let me track back briefly, and then we'll hand it right over to Lou. So when you were talking about integrity, it's so interesting. I think everyone thinks they have it, but this is the year of the blind spot. I'm realizing, wow, when humans have a blind spot, they can't see it, and they can't see that they can't see it. You can put it right in front of their face, and they can't see it. I have them. We all have them. And so I don't know that an influencer who's struggling with that can necessarily see that they're struggling with that. And just like my politics point earlier, there's something about the algorithm programming you. There's something about getting all this attention a little too quickly. There's something about not having a social conversation anywhere, at any level of the game. There's no social conversation about how to deal with this fame that hits you. Even at 10, 20,000 followers, all of a sudden you're getting more romantic interest, whether you want it or not. Then you can deal with. All of a sudden you're getting more dopamine hits and they're doing less for your brain. All of a sudden you're working for the algorithm whether you know it or not. This is an intrinsically toxic situation. And so because there's no support group, now you see people behaving in a way we don't like, whether it's the people who go the route of scams and rug pulls, whether it's the people who go the route of being superficial or two-faced or whatever it is. It's like, well, that happens because the human is programmed to break down that way. Of course the human breaks down that way. It's like, this is what it looks like when a system is breaking. The human is also a system. The group of humans is also a system. When you push them through the cheese grater, they are going to splinter. They're going to bleed. And we are witnessing what that looks like. It looks like a loss of integrity. So these aren't necessarily the bad guys, right? They have been pushed through the cheese grater and they got a lot of money, so we think that they're winning. But emotionally and psychologically, they're starting to splinter, and it's not going to be good for them or their families or their kids and all this other stuff. And you can see the outcomes. It's evident in how they live their lives on camera. The blind spot is so big that what they put on camera is not healthy, and they're not seeing it. So they're very curatorial. They're very protective of what they put on camera. But even with that lens, they can't see that they're putting out something that makes them look unhealthy. So, when we look at people who are broken, I used to be so righteous when I ran for office. We got to fix the system, correct the corrupted people. And now I'm like, man, all the people who are doing the wrong thing are also victims. Really tough situation.
Man,
All
that's heavy, man. I'm telling you, Nadim, that's heavy. That is heavy because that's real. That's real. Like yes, yes, yes. Man, I'm telling you, man, these conversations they're gonna get crazier, man. I appreciate that type of insight, man. I have so much to say, but I definitely want to hear from other people. Like I think we're having a really good conversation. I want to hear what everybody else has to say. Lou, you've been holding your hand up for a minute, and and Nadim has just been nonstop, man. I want to hear from somebody else for the project. Nadim, man, I'm telling you, it's strong, it's powerful. What's good, Lou?
Hi friends, how's everyone doing today? First of all, I'm Lou. I'm also from the Hype Cartel. I wanted to say, first of all, hi to the people that I know. I see Pete, I see Jan, I see Space Boy. So really thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to our story. Thank you for, supporting us and just wanting to hear about us. I actually wanted to reply to Bullish's comment from a while ago, and because she was asking about like our process when building our community, and that's something that I feel is really special in the way that we're doing it. So the way that we used to do it before, with the Assemble app, which is the app that Nadim has been talking about, we would have a team, like a whole team working, doing the recruitment and the interviews of people. So we would sit with every single person that we were finding, and we were asking about their values and who they were and what their interests were and why they were like an influencer, and this is actually something interesting as well. Like someone once taught me the difference between an influencer and a content creator, because a lot of people, even influencers, like even people that we identify as influencers, they don't like the term influencer because they feel like undervalued because of that, because they feel like people think that they work for free. But actually what we found out is that all these people work. We actually met with a girl, and I'm not gonna say her name, but she is from Texas, and she had like 5 different jobs, I think, on top of posting like 3 TikToks a day for like 7 days a week. And she was literally doing all that, and she was earning like $400 from TikTok, and we were
It
realizing
was less than that.
it was less than that. It was
earning
awful.
$3 an hour on TikTok with 500,000 followers. She was earning $3 an hour on TikTok, and she was earning $18.50 at Chili's.
Yeah. So we were meeting up with these people one by one, and we were hearing these stories, and we were, taking the time to like actually get to know them, not the persona that they were putting up for social media, but actually the human behind the influencer, if you will. So we were doing that. And now for the Core 133, and this is what we've been doing, and this is why I think it's so exciting, because we actually have a couple people here that can basically attest to that, the way Nadim has been meeting with every single person and just giving them the time and the space and listening to what they have to say. And I just think that's great. I think that's great because it really allows us to build a real community, people who are going to be here to support us because they love our project more so than our like art, or looking to flip, because that's the thing I've heard as well. Like, oh guys, I hope you moon so I can buy one and then flip it for like 10 times the price. And I'm like, that's not what we're about. Like, we're about building real community and finding real people who actually care. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say, guys.
Thank you, Lou. And let me follow that up by saying, hey, I think that when you build real community, you end up making 10x profits. Maybe with something like a token or with our NFT, you might make more than 10x profits. This is not, however, the thing that you go in sniffing for. I'm kind of allergic to these communities where, by no fault of anyone's, a bunch of smart people and people I admire and friends of mine go in and they're always looking for alpha. And you start hearing things or saying things like, oh man, I love your project and I love your charity aspect and I love this and I love that, but I wish you could just do X with your art because that's what's popular right now. Or, oh man, I wish that you had just gotten this or that influencer or this or that celebrity because that's what you really need to moon. And it's like, all of a sudden you find yourself surrounded by conversations where you're talking about what it looks like to be successful, and you're not actually talking about what it takes to be intrinsically valuable and what it takes to really innovate. And this is what VCs do, by the way. This is what venture capitalists do, and why innovators and entrepreneurs sometimes don't, I mean, it's love-hate relationship with VCs. You need the money, you need the support, you need the networks, you need the prestige. But they're always following what is popular, even if they have to jump off a cliff to get it. They're never telling you what is popular. They're never telling you what's going to come next. They're always asking you what's going to come next. And if it's not what they've already seen, if it's actually too innovative, they can't see it. They can't smell it. So what Lou said is true. We're not about that 10x gain, because the 10x gain is the thing that happens when you are building. It happens when you are innovating. It happens when you are social changing. It just happens along the way. You can't help it. You have to make money when you're innovating like that. But it's wrong to go, I think it's wrong. It's not wrong for everyone, but it's wrong for our group to go and put the money ahead of the innovation. You can't get to the innovation from the money. Often you can't even get to the money from the money, but you can always get to the money from the innovation if you do it right and if your priorities are in order.
Big facts, man. I appreciate that. Nadim following off Lou. Thank you, Lou, as well. That's great. Elusivity, I see you got your hand up. What's good, homie, man? Talk to me.
Yo, what's going on, fam? How are you, bro?
Doing good. What's up? What's on your mind?
Nah, just chilling, bro. Happy 420, you feel me? I'm chilling with the big vibes. I see you doing your thing, you know. It's just cool, bro, because I met you randomly at that, not randomly, but I feel like everything happens for a reason. And I met you at that sneaker event. You did your thing. We clicked, we talked. And I peeped that you were following, is he still in here? Yeah, Dan Rose. And I've been following Dan Rose since I had that goon I told you about. So it's like, damn, this is a small world, literally. But yeah, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name's Elusivity. I'm over here in Chicago. I've been in the space for about 5 months now, and I'm just trying to make as much connections as possible, especially over here in the city, man. Like Web3 mixed with Web2 is something I like a lot. And I told Visuals a while back that my personal goal is to start bringing in people from Web2 onto Web3. Like, I got a lot of homies, a lot of family that I want to put on. And I just want to guide them, you know, because a lot of people want to invest, but they're just scared to lose money, to do the wrong thing. And I feel like if we guide them, that's just a bonus, you know. But yeah, bro, appreciate you for letting me speak.
No doubt, man. No doubt. Thank you too, man. I mean, I'm on that same tip. You know, I mean, that's why we met at that event. That's definitely what I'm doing is I'm trying to bring people into Web3, and especially at spots like that. You know, you're at a sneaker event. You know, I did an event at Pilsen, you know, a couple months ago, and we're gonna keep doing those. I'm really trying to reach out to people that might not think that they could even be in this space, and yeah, I'm excited for that, man. Definitely looking forward to seeing you again on Saturday, man. Dan is gonna be there. He's part of the Flooding Factory team, so he'll be there with his whole squad, and we're definitely excited to have you there. What's good though, Bullish?
No, you were mentioning the event on Saturday, and I was just about to hit him up in the DMs with the advertising and just say, hey, you know what, I've been to one of your events, the very first one at Pilsen for myself. I traveled from outside of Toronto to go to this event and support Visual. I met him in a space, and that's how it went. And then I went to South by Southwest. So I see Web3 team through that one as well in South by Southwest, and it was like next to amazing. The experience alone, seeing how much work goes into it, see how people were receptive. Big people like Spotty Wi-Fi were there. I mean, like, it was insane. They had the talks, they had like Kong 1840, they had performers, Manir, they had like so much going on at this one event at South by Southwest. And I know it's a big event, but I went to the Pilsen event, and you know what? The takeaway from that was Visual is doing this for the community. And that, to me, you can't replace with anything. Like, it's priceless. It's better than MasterCard. I'm telling you, what he's giving to people, helping them onboard, giving them free NFTs, taking the time to actually speak to people. You know, like, In New York, you're lucky if you even get a glimpse by somebody, because they're in their zone. They don't want to take the time. Visual and his team have that, and I think that's important. And if you know anybody in Chicago, please share, ask us, DM us for the advertisement. Check out our website. I've been doing the countdown every day on my Twitter because I feel it's very important. I mean, like, it's a free event. What's free nowadays? Just go. Experience it, enjoy it, meet new people, network. In real life, you cannot replace in real life experiences, connections, handshakes, smiles. Like, we've been locked up too long because of the pandemic. So definitely it's time to get out and start those in real life events and in real life meetings.
Thank you, Bullish. I appreciate that. It's always love. Pete, what's good?
Man, I feel upset that I feel like I missed out on the first hour. I know Nadim was dropping gems.
Man, you missed a lot of gold here from this guy, man. This guy Nadim, he's walking around with all kinds of gems in his pocket, just dropping them down, man. And we're here picking them up. And you missed a lot, Pete.
Wow.
Man,
I don't
what's
know
up,
if it's
everybody?
I don't know if it's like that, because actually the beauty is still in the audience, right? Because we're curating and collecting all these people, and it turns out that as I mean, you've been very kind with your words, but as kind as your words are for me, that's exactly how I feel in every single OG interview with the 133 people who are going to kick this thing off. So just imagine what it's going to be like in a Zoom call with all of them when I'm on mute.
Right. Yeah. No. When we had a chance to talk online, I met Nadim through a Zoom, and instantly I knew that he knew. We kind of clicked instantly intellectually. I feel like, because I instantly felt like he knew what was going on in the space, not just in this space, and other spaces that intervene that correlate with this space, and like having that type of insight. I know the Hype Cartel project seems to be something that's promising, but yeah, just a fly in the wall here. I was doing a bunch of 420 stuff today, so just here to listen and check everybody out.
Yeah, you sound like you were doing a bunch of 420 stuff, bro.
Hey, man, I work in the cannabis space. This is our day. This is Christmas. If I'm Santa,
It's a business expense.
There you go, man.
Write it off.
It's the write-off. I love it. That's my guy, Pete, man. I gotta throw shots. He knows what it is. It's love. I see we got Jen popping in. What's good, Jen?
Hey, how are you? I'm listening, and I'm like, my mind is being blown this whole time that I'm listening to everything that Nadim is saying. And I had the pleasure of talking to him the other day, and I just kind of wanted to underscore a couple of things that he said, because they're so important. Like, we're the culture makers in this space, the artists, the builders, the founders. Like, we're doing important work here, and I think that a lot of times we underestimate that. And I think, like, if we want the Web3 culture to shift away from this, like, pump and dump thing that we see happening that's so frustrating for artists, we need to show up and dig into doing that work. And what Hype Cartel is doing is kind of curating a community to do that work. And I'm just, like, so appreciative that someone's digging into that. That's, like, so in line with the work that I've been doing in this space. I came in here a year ago with crochet work, which had absolutely no space in NFTs. Everything was digital and 3Ds and, skinny flows and all of that good stuff. So when I showed up with my crochet, I really I had a hard time finding my footing until I connected with the right people who were like, hey, this could also work. And I think, I think we need to see, like, more yes and not either or. So that's one of the reasons that I really appreciate what Nadim is building here. So I just wanted to pop in and say that, and thank you for holding this space. I really appreciate this, and I feel like I have an even deeper understanding of what Hype Cartel is building, and I absolutely am here for it.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you for popping in here. I appreciate you speaking. And yeah, I'm excited. Like I said, I think as the conversation goes on, we're finding out more reasons why we want to support Hype Cartel. And like I said earlier, that's initially one of the things that I told Nadim on our Zoom call was like, man, we're gonna have conversations much deeper in this project. And I think the project is just kind of the beginning of a way to get involved in everything that's going on. So yeah, that's great. Thank you for your insight. Thank you for popping in and speaking on that. If anybody else wants to come up and speak, has any questions for Nadim or myself or anybody on the Hype Cartel team, has any insight on any of the conversation that we've had, please come up. We're more than happy to bring you up. So yes, let's do that. And as we get anybody else that might speak, I do want to kind of start getting to that point where we're gonna wrap up. But I do want to ask a couple more questions, Nadim or Lou, whoever wants to pop in about the project and answer this. So I want to kind of go back a little bit to the minting process because I'm telling you, man, it's so unique.
Can I just pop in real quick and say that Bullish has had her hand up the whole time, and so I just didn't want to forget that has been there while we go on to the next question.
I'm not even seeing that on my end. I don't know. Maybe there's a glitch in the matrix, or I'm just, I don't know. Bullish.
No, you know what? He just doesn't like seeing my hand because he thinks I'm gonna slap him every time, so he ignores the hand when it's up. So
I'm serious though. I'm not. I legit am not seeing your hand up.
He's angry at me because I got the Chicago E-bot. He really is. That's my PFP. We're fighting over that. Just
that's hilarious.
Now we're making it public. But
what's good though, Bullish? What's good?
So here's the thing. When people ask you, well, we want to flip it. We want we want a 6x, 10x, 100x. You know what? Tell them that you're doing it in real life. Tell them your profits are out here in the streets. We're actually physically doing it. So tell them that it's not just a flip. It's a movement that you're doing, and that's important. And I think that's how you should position it, or let them know, hey, you know what? Your profits are out here in the streets.
Yes. Well, I think that's super important. I've seen it up close. I saw what happened when progressives were posed with a tax increase. And we said, hey, the tax rate in Cambridge is much lower than the other cities. We're one of the wealthiest cities. Can we do a progressive tax? Can we do a tax that only taxes the wealthy? What can we do? And just at the word tax, people who are progressives were saying, no, you think we're wealthy, but we're not wealthy enough for that. And so this thing happens where I want to position it that way. And I'm going to borrow that if you don't mind, because that was beautiful. And also
I trademarked it, so yeah.
Trademarked too late. I got to come and pay your licensing fee.
I'm just kidding.
No, but people come and they want to do the right thing. But then there's this little whisper that says, but what about me? What about how real the finances are right now? What about the fact that, yeah, on paper I'm wealthy. Yeah, on paper it's already 5x, but I need to extract those gains now. Because the movement, whatever, but that's for the movement. I'm an individual, and as an individual, I need this now. And that, if you feel that can be rationalized. That can be justified in any way that you want to justify it. The human being is a master of justifying whatever it is that is a strong emotional feeling. So, yes, what you said is true. I do believe in the power, though, of some amount of flexibility, because I don't think we're at the time in the movement or the time in human development where you can just say this is a movement for 100% discipline. I think 100% discipline is very fragile. I think people who try to achieve it often end up blowing a gasket one way or another. So I want to be able to say, you got to have more discipline than you're used to, and we're going to coach each other forward in that. I also want to say there will be some tasty treats. There will be some upside. There will be some, and so don't flip it because you might miss out on the treats later. You might miss out on exposure, opportunities. If you flip too many of your NFTs, I mean, look what happened to Bored Apes, right? They actually turned into money. So if you had held it longer, you not only would have had the intrinsic value of the NFT, you would have had the ape coin as well. Well, that's true in many ways. That's true for what an NFT can be. That's also true, Bullish, for what you said, which is how much impact you can make with that NFT. And so I want people to hold on to it knowing that they can have that impact value, but also knowing that there's some tasty treats involved.
That's awesome. To go off of that, I was thinking about the minting process, and I really want to ask this. I want to get your insight on it. Are you at all concerned, or is your team at all concerned on that process and how it could impact you guys on a financial standpoint of the project? Are you worried that the mint might be too slow because of that process and people having to vet other people to be able to mint? What's your insight on that?
To be totally honest, I am worried, and it is expensive to run a team like this, and I'm very blessed that Nimblebot has corporate clients so that we can take from the rich and give to the social impact. but it's not like it's not a Madison Avenue firm. That has limits, and those limits are being tested. So we do need to bring in finances, and we do need to think carefully about the timing and about the scale and about the pricing. And we want to hold this commitment, but we are, as we march towards 133, as we march towards the Council of 500, I think after that, we're going to want to move pretty quickly, and we're going to want to ask the council how we're going to move quickly and still maintain our values at the same time. I don't think we're going to be able to sacrifice on either one of those if we want to do this right. So it will have to be quick, but it'll also have to be thorough. And, as I said, no tightly wound system is gonna survive this type of speed. So it's got to be a little bit of a flexible system. Skyscrapers bend in the breeze, right? So we're also gonna make mistakes, and we're also gonna confront any tension or any of that stuff that arises as you grow a team quickly. And so that's got to be a beautiful, diplomatic, and compassionate process. It's got to be flexible, and there's got to be some room for some, hopefully not financial mistakes, hopefully just learning experiences along the way. But I think most of us are here for it, and I think speed is a factor, to answer your question, very much.
Okay, definitely, man, because that's definitely something I was looking at. I don't know. Honestly, I'm just looking at it from my perspective. If I was in your shoes, it would be kind of nerve-wracking to me. But at the same time, I'll be honest with you, and I'd say it's a ballsy move, man. it's a very ballsy move.
Well, we do have an upside, right? One upside is that we're not doing this on FOMO, right? We're doing this on, the benefit of curation is that even if it does take a long time, you could have someone mint, you could have 5 people mint today, 10 people tomorrow. This could take a year, but if 10 people mint today, that year is going to be a very profitable year. So I think unfortunately, a lot of founders are asking, how can I create FOMO so that I can mint out, so that I can take my 80% or whatever it is, they promise 20% to charity. They go home with 80%, or they promise however much to the community. And they're saying, how can I do that as quickly as possible so I can go use my money and enjoy it on vacation, or on permanent vacation, or so I can start the next thing. And so I'm not that worried about what happens if we are slow and steady, but the steady is real, because then we have enough to fund our operating costs. We're giving away prizes. We're incentivizing and aligning people. We're rewarding with cash the leaders who emerge in the app. We're building the app. That's all happening on a daily basis if we're minting slowly but surely. What we got to make sure is that people who are used to the FOMO and used to the blast off and used to the pump and dump, we just got to make sure that those people don't look at that and say, well, that's an unsuccessful project. We got to make sure that we're educating people. That's such a different model, and this is what success looks like for us. This is what success looks like now, because the benefits are, X, Y, Z, and we can explain to them some of the things that we have talked about on this call.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's very strong, and I believe that you and your team are built for that long-term plan, and that's really what I see the Hype Cartel project being. So I think it's a perfect structure for you guys to approach it in that way, with that approach to the mint, and for everybody going through the process they have to do the mint. I think that's definitely aligns with everything that you guys are doing. So, and I think it's once again very unique, and I think honestly it's gonna stand out once enough people start recognizing what it is that you guys are doing, and realizing that it's a long-term project. It's not a quick cash grab. I think a lot of people will resonate with that, and you guys are gonna be fine, man. I'm confident in that as somebody who's looking to be part of that 133 OGs. Love the number 33, by the way. So that's a major point to me. I'm big on
we got a
3-9.
slam dunk.
I'm a number guy, man. Yeah, I'm a number guy, man. So, you got I know a guy from my city that wore that number that was got a lot of slam dunks in, man. Definitely. Yes, sir. Jen, what's up?
So I really love this idea of how Hype Cartel is kind of curating its community members. And I don't know if you're all familiar with Stella Bell, but she's an artist who's a OG crypto artist, has been in the space since, I don't know, 2017, way back in the day. And that's something that she's been working with in her projects, where she is curating her collectors and paying attention to people who are, vibing with her ethos and what she wants to bring to the community. And, like connecting with those people and, like we end up, collecting her artwork, and the people who like her collectors that she's curated, are rewarded down the road. Like, she's done things like we've gotten bars of chocolate and, exclusive mints or opportunities to showcase our work. So like on a small scale, curating your collectors or curating your community is really, really huge. So like there's a model for this, and I really am curious to see how this works on a project level as opposed to like an artist level.
Me too, because it sounds like I'm going to be learning a lot from you and from your network. So we gotta take those tidbits and make sure that we become expert in that. I talk a big game because I've organized in one way, right, in this community way, in this political way, maybe sometimes in a digital way. But the reality is that we need these OGs and we need this council, because the wisdom of the crowd is much, much, much greater than that of the team.
Yes. Lou, what's up? I see you got your hand up, and then we'll get to Bullish. What's up, Lou?
Yeah, no, I just really wanted to quickly say that, going off of what Jen was saying, another thing that we're really paying attention of when curating the community is that we're making sure we're getting lots of different people from different niches, and also from like different things that they do. So we have people from, like who are artists, who are founders, who are investors, who are, just like regular folk who like NFTs. So we are trying to get all these people together for it to be like a really, like diverse community, but also where everyone can like learn from each other and help each other. And so it's really all about the team and how we all work together. So yeah.
That's what's up, man. I love that. Bullish, talk to us.
Okay, so a few takeaways. Number one, coming into this space is definitely bringing the awareness to different people. Number two, if you have merch, like, or some kind of visual conversation piece, that would be key. Like, if you're saying your art is attracting people, well, use that to your advantage, to use it as a conversation piece, to have these conversations and, highlight what you're doing. And that's basically it. Like, use your art. If that's one of the things that people are interested as well, use that to your advantage. Use what, like, I would spin it, and I would definitely create that conversation piece, whether it's a hat, a pin, a sticker, something else like that.
Stickers. Yeah, it's coming. Slowly but surely.
No,
Absolutely.
Because you know what, they don't have to be high budget, but you want that conversation piece. You want people talking. And that's another thing. Like, what are you going to do to generate those conversations? Like, make these, like, kind of like, in a way, guerrilla marketing. Make it so interesting that people have to talk about it. Oh my gosh, did you see that? Da 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 da. And that's the thing, is I love the shock and awe. Like, you know what? Now everybody's so desensitized by certain things. You really have to bring your game up a little bit to get people talking about it. Hey, you know what? Oh wow, you know what? Or again, find these people that people that you look up to, mentors, people in the higher ups that you're connected to. get them involved and say, hey, you know what, this is what we're doing. You're gonna give me some money. I'm gonna give you an NFT, and we're gonna get this going, and you're just gonna tell them what you're gonna do.
I love it. Yeah, we got to be doing that, and I'm hopeful that you believe enough in the project to join Pete and Cesar in advising us in this way, because we need. There's so many things to do. I'm literally working 20-hour days. A lot of the staff and a lot of the founders are too. We got to get someone kicking us in the butt when we have a major oversight. So I'm just in time on stickers, but we got to be doing something even more thoughtful. We got to start planning how the OG meetings are going to go so that they're fun, right? Because it's so easy for me, someone like me, to get practical. We got to get them fun, and so I'm going to need input on that. And then, I just thought it would be really cool to take our artists who have spent a long time. Right? These are the in-house artists at Nimblebot, as well as myself and Susan, who do a lot of the art ourselves and are doing the creative direction. And I just thought it would be cool to take this entire week, give everyone a week off from making art corrections as we mint the NFT, and make a sticker package and an emoji package. And I think we can be spending, we're pretty much done with the art revisions and corrections. So I think it would be really fun next to be making one-of-ones, and then maybe even making some physical merchandise. And that starts with some of the things that Jen hit on and you alluded to, Bullish. But I think it ends with, like, maybe if this mint kicks off well with the OGs and the council, maybe I spend a couple months in Vietnam or in Southeast Asia, and we make some handbags or some backpacks or something like that. So I'm trying to get really creative and really guerrilla with it. So let's see, let's not load up the cart too heavy with big dreams. But I think depending on how quickly we get things off the starting block, that we can use some of the product design experience in our founding team to do something interesting. In the meantime, we got to do small and effective and low overhead things. And so those suggestions are super, super, super welcome. And I hope that we start kicking those out the door over the next couple of weeks.
That's awesome, man. Looking forward to that. And, like I've mentioned before, man, any way that we can help you be part of that process of helping you guys get the word out and just move the project along, we're here for it. But let's wrap this thing up. Nadim, please, any last words from you? Lou as well. Jen, Bullish, Pete, anybody else in the room that wants to come up, any final words, questions, or anything like that? Let's go ahead and wrap it up.
Absolutely. Well, I alluded to something earlier. I always talk about, and I think I'll keep talking about, my brief stint in politics, how much it taught me. There was a time where we got good at starting 5-person groups, right? We got good at, like, pounding down the door. We literally had a parade of artists and musicians do a jazz funk march down Mass Ave because housing was too expensive and arts budgets were too low and all of this stuff. So we got good at turning 5 usually very humble but very driven people into movements of 1,000 people. And my takeaway was that 5 people can change the world, can change a city. Certainly groups of like 15, 20 can change the region, and groups of 30 to 50 can change the world. And so that's a weirdly low number. It's a weirdly low bar. And so one of my takeaways, I think, is that this is a kind of majestic and beautiful opportunity that we see in Web3. We see groups that regularly see Discord groups of 5 and 10,000, regularly see groups that are active in the low thousands. And I think we're taking for granted how much power and how much opportunity there is. So my takeaway here is that we've got a big goal. We've got a group of 5,000 we want to curate, but I think we're going to be in pretty good shape and feeling pretty good about our potential and about our scope or our vision, let's say, our ability to see the future and put our hands on it, even when we're just at 133 people. So I encourage you, please, to nominate the folks that you believe would be good for us, to nominate yourselves, to DM us, anyone here, of course, Bullish, would love to add you to the crew. And I think that we're probably capable of great things, and I can't wait to take my hand off the microphone to see what it is that other folks in the 133 will propose and how they will shape the course ahead.
That's awesome. Any last words, Lou, Jen, Bullish?
Well, I can say something quickly. I really, as I said earlier, I'm really excited to see like how things unfold because, um, without giving too much away, we have been promoting for a little over a month now. I'm pretty sure, and the way that
Promoting the big idea, but only promoting the
Right.
133 for 2 days. Yeah.
right now promoting like in general ever since like we started publicizing Hype Cartel here on Twitter. That's been a little over a month, and things have grown exponentially, particularly within this week. So, it's like really interesting to see how things are like really quiet for a while and suddenly they're not anymore. And that actually gives way to like, I like being in spaces because people keep bringing up networking. And here on Twitter, I've realized just how easy networking is because you follow someone and then that someone has like whatever, like certain famous NFT influencer. And then, you somehow get in touch with these people and you start making connections with them and you suddenly, co-host a space or you work on a giveaway of sorts, stuff like that. And you never know who you're gonna reach. So we have been seeing some really exciting and interesting things happening, and we are definitely just waiting for more. So anyone who's like interested in being a part of like our journey and Hype Cartel, like when we moon, I'm not gonna say if we moon, I'm gonna when we moon. So yeah.
Thank you, Lou. When we moon, we have this slide that Jen has seen. I don't know if visual saw. Yeah, I think Caesar saw the slide where it says in the beginning, mankind sought to moon. Right, the Web3 was early and mankind sought to moon. Right, but man got distracted by short-term gains. Our true purpose is still out there for us somewhere. Right, and so I think the desire to moon, this desire to do big things, this desire to be part of something on its way up is a really big hack in the human psychology. It's a really big thing that Web3 is tapping into. People want to be part of something that's building, even if that thing is a meme coin, which by definition doesn't mean anything, right? It's just you can feel the magic around you. And so I appreciate what Lou has just talked about here because we've all seen it. Many of us have been part of it. And I think what is exciting here is that it gives us a chance to be part of that magic, and the magic is multiplied by the feeling of substance we get from the vision and the feeling of substance we get just from interacting with other very substantive and very reliable people. So that'll be new. That'll be a new type of moon, and I can't wait to share that experience with Lou and the team and the rest of you.
Yes. That's very exciting. Definitely excited to be part of that process with you guys. Bullish, do you have any last words? Or Jen, do you have any last words before we get out of here?
Thank you for sharing your... Sorry, I'm cooking in the background. Sorry, I can't offer you any either. I don't think
want
it'll be
some.
good by the time I give it to you.
Email me.
Although, multitasking here. You know what? I think, again, what you're doing, never lose focus on what your main cause is. And I appreciate your dedication because that story you told me about the 5 people affecting 1,000 is huge. And yeah, it really resonated with me.
Thank you. Yeah, and it's something you can repeat, right? We're going to have 5,000 people. That's 1,000 groups of 5, right? We could be going out with subcommittees in every direction. If you can learn how to do that thing of being altruistic and reliable, of being tactical and cooperative, right? I'm sure everyone in here has an expertise in that thing, but if we can teach the other 5,000 that thing, you've got many thousands that can germinate and multiply out of those groups of 5 or those groups of 10 or 20 or 30. So there's, I think, there's some good capacity and some good opportunity. I'm glad that you're inspired by that. I remain inspired by that. I didn't invent that. That's just the thing that's built into the human. So that's a very exciting thing to look forward to.
Hell yeah, that's great. All right. Well, my people, I appreciate everybody popping in here. Nadim, it was an awesome conversation. I'm excited about the future of Hype Cartel. Lou, thank you for your insight as well. Jen, it was great meeting you. Thank you for everything, for speaking, and looking forward to connect with you in the future with this Web3 stuff that we got going on here. It's lovely. Bullish, as always, you know what it is. Pete, I see my homie B-Boy B down here. We got an event this Saturday. If you're in Chicago, make sure you are there. All right, my people, that's enough for this. Until next time, peace,
you.
blessings, hundreds of lessons.